Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your weekend was absolutely outstanding. We have a great live stream planned ahead. We're talking about Jack Smith and his $20,000 snitch. Apparently, he paid some guy or some lady a bunch of money in order to get Trump. Now, the documents show the transaction, the request, the payment form, and all the things. We'll take a look at it, and we'll also see what Chuck Grassley has to say about Jack Smith, because apparently some more records have now been sent over his way that he's made public that show that Jack was already involved in this case, or rather the FBI was involved in this case even earlier than we thought before they handed it off to the not a real boy corrupt special counsel. Now, we'll go through all of it. Then we'll ask ourselves, how many of these bad FBI agents have ultimately been fired? Take a guess, put a number in your head, because we'll come back to it. Remember, we've got over 30,000 FBI employees. So what percentage of FBI agents who were responsible for all of the corruption, J6, Butler, we've got, of course, all sorts of other shenanigans with the pipe bomber, and not to mention Arctic Frost and the raid of Mar-a-Lago and all the things. How many do you think were fired? Just put a number in there for a second. Then we'll come back and we'll see what is next with Dan Bongino, because apparently his replacement has been given the job. We'll see who that is and some details on that before we turn our attention over to Tim Walz, because we've got, I think, like every Republican senator in the Senate. I'm not positive on that, but a lot of them, most of them, all sending a letter over to Tim Walz saying, Walzy boy, you're in big trouble there, bucko. You're at the center of this fraud, and they think that they're just at the tip of the iceberg. And so I've got this letter queued up with just gobs of senators all dumping in on Tim Walz, and that's fun. James Comer says they're looking into him, and so he can not run again. That's fine, but he's not out of the weeds. Not yet there, Timbo. So we'll go through that. Then we got Maduro, and a weird thing happened with Maduro. He had a lawyer, then another lawyer said, actually, I'm his lawyer. And then the lawyer who actually was on the case said, no, you're not. And he said, well, I kind of am. Let's ask Maduro. And so they were fighting over this. One attorney was saying he's not the lawyer, judge. And the other lawyer was like, well, not officially, but Maduro kind of thinks I am. So let's bring him out here and let's ask Maduro. And the judge came down on a ruling on that, and we'll get into it. But just moments ago, before we click the Let's Go Live button, what we saw was wall-to-wall coverage of this Minnesota now suing the Trump administration, I guess, for arresting illegal alien gangbanging pedophiles down there. And it was wall-to-wall all over the cables. I saw it on the 4x4 over here. They are now off of the story at the moment. But here, can you see me here? Or can we just confirm that you can actually see me here? I was playing around with some settings. Let's make sure I'm on the screen. There we go. Making sure. All right, so Minnesota now suing Trump. They brought out Keith Ellison. They brought out Jacob Frey, Mr. Somali Food himself. And apparently they're suing him. And I don't know why this was wall-to-wall coverage, to be honest with you, maybe because of the shooting. But they've already sued in numerous locations. They've already said, get your National Guard out of here. Get your enforcement out of here in various places. And this actually, I think, is going further than the other lawsuits. That was really about the National Guard, not enforcement of immigration law, which is in the purview of the federal government. So we're waiting for the lawsuit to drop. This was just announced moments ago, and I'm sure we'll come back on it once the DOJ says what their response will be. But just a quick story that was already published about 29 minutes ago, courtesy of Reuters. Many others haven't even reported it yet. But Minnesota suing Nome and several immigration officials. They're going to block immigration enforcement after a woman was shot and killed by a federal agent. Oh, wait a minute. How come there's a period right there? Oh, I think somebody must have forgot to put the other half of the sentence on there, which says, after she tried to ram him with her vehicle. Yeah, that's not on this in the paragraph there in the sentence. The lawsuit in the District of Minnesota asked the court to declare the surge unconstitutional. You can't even enforce immigration law because of the Constitution. You have to just allow illegal Somalian fraudsters to come into your country. So the state also wants a ban on U.S. officers using, or I guess threatening to use physical force or brandishing weapon who are not subject to an immigration arrest. So they can't actually give anybody lawful commands either. It's like an insurrection, okay? It's a soft secession. It's a soft civil war without ultimately declaring that you're seceding from the Union. So you can just not enforce federal law in this one locale because their feelings are hurt because they've got an infestation of illegal aliens who are not good people, which we'll come back to. So, all right, that's the lawsuit just announced, and we'll see what the DOJ says in response to that. But we'll put a pin in that because we've also got the Tim Walz letter coming up in the second segment and all the senators coming down on him. So we'll include that back in there in a second. But first, let's talk about Jack Smith, my friends. It is a beautiful day, and we're very glad that you're here. Thank you for subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done that, so we never miss you again, ever, because we love you. Now, we've got Jack Smith news to attend to. Jack Smith caught again, this time spending 20 G's on a snitch. President Trump not happy about it, nor is Kash Patel. And these documents just got released from Congress. We're going to go through them in detail and see exactly who was approving this payment of $20,000 for information that would lead to the imprisonment of President Trump. Jack was. That's who. So we've got that. We've also got Chuck Grassley, who is sending a letter over to Pam Bondi, reminding them that they've got some other information about this guy, Timothy Thibault, whatever his name is. And this was an anti-Trump lunatic, in my opinion, who opened up this entire investigation. Then they handed it off to Jack Smith. They're like, oh, special counsel, independent, not a Democrat hack operation at all. Turns out he just copied Timothy Thibault's homework. The Biden FBI unleashed hell on the Trump administration and the Trump campaign to sideline them and remove them from American politics forever. That didn't happen, though. They lost. He's the president now. So Trump said this on the interwebs over on Truth. Deranged Jack Smith should be sitting in prison for all that he has done to disgrace our country. Jack Smith's team approved $20,000 payment to Informant to snitch on the Trump team during the Arctic Frost case. 20 G's. And of course, you wonder whether that amount of money led to the production of good evidence, or whether that was somebody who was just trying to get a $20K payday and just making stuff up because we know they didn't care about the truth. Jack Smith, by the way, even invented some new exception to free speech. Like, you have free speech unless you're a politician and you have something to say that might undermine the integrity of an election, which is rich because they didn't charge Hillary Clinton when she said the Russians stole it from her. So very curious how it only applies to one side of this whole thing, but Jack Smith's a lying hack, in my opinion. So then Trump said that he belongs in prison. Couldn't agree more, Mr. President. Hopefully, Pam Bondi can do something about that soon. But we got also Kash responding to this. He said, Jack Smith's team approved a $20,000 payment to an informant to target President Trump and his allies in Arctic Frost. That's not law enforcement. It's weaponization. The FBI is exposing the truth, producing records, and restoring accountability. And here is one of those records. We can see some background from Just the News saying Jack Smith's office, in fact, approved 20 G's back in 2023 to a CHS, a confidential human source, for information in the controversial Arctic Frost investigation into President Trump. Now, this came from a tranche of new memos that Kash Patel turned over to Congress this week that provides more clarity on the tactics and the scope of exactly what Jack Smith was doing. Now, Patel told Just the News that the bombshell revelation of a paid snitch was the evidence that this was an egregious abuse of power, saying multiple efforts by FBI supervisors were attempted to make Trump the subject of the probe, ultimately was rejected. And the new revelations are in addition to all of the other investigations that occurred into Trump world. 150 figures. We know everybody was caught up in there. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, everybody. And now we're getting to see inside. So here's what one of the memos looks like. You can see this one published or written back 6/5/2023. So a few years ago. Biden is in office. We've got Jack Smith percolating. We've got all of the FBI gobbling up evidence, getting it ready to hand over to him so that he doesn't have to really work too hard and can just prosecute the case from the Joe Biden FBI. So here's what we got. Title: Documentation of prosecutorial approval for a CHS payment. Confidential human source. This was approved by redacted. This was drafted by redacted. And what's a problem with that is, of course, we don't know the name, so we can't confirm whether or not they've been fired. Probably not, though, or resigned or left the FBI under other terms. Coming out of Washington, case ID, all classified or secret, human intelligence, sensitive investigative matter, Arctic Frost. This is about election law. Now, here's the synopsis. EC documents prosecutorial approval. So the DOJ, somebody over there, whether it's Jack Smith's team or not, in the form of a payment, in the form of an emailed concurrence from counselor to special counsel Raymond Hulser of a payment for the information in the amount of $20,000 to redacted, no name there, for information provided in support of the captioned investigation. 20 G's, baby. That's pretty cheap for some information from the government's perspective. They spent tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions trying to get Trump, and, even maybe billions when it came to J6 and all of the homegrown domestic violent extremism efforts by the Biden FBI while our country was being hollowed out by foreigners. So they focused on domestic violence. Yeah, extremism. We got it. Now, enclosed are the following items. We've got the special counsel's office concurrence for a payment to 20 G's to some random person who is a confidential human source. The documents here we're documenting prosecutorial approval in the form of email concurrence, once again, 6/02/2023, June 2nd, several years ago, of a payment for information in the amount of 20 G's to this person, again, provided in support. And this payment was discussed with Raymond Hulser and Julia Gegenheimer and special counsel Jack Smith. Oh, Jack, you're busted. You approved it. 20 G's. Now, of course, this happens a lot, but Jack, not that ethical of a person from our perspective. And so we've got questions about whether he was paying somebody off to just make up information. Of course, all of that information, the name of that person is redacted, so maybe we'll never know. Emailed concurrence from Hulser is attached, and you can see it right here. Look at these goons. Election's right around the corner. They're freaking out. You see here, sir, from redacted to RNH CC to JKG. I'm sure we could piece that together at some point. But sir, as discussed, request your office is concurrence in our proposed payment of $20,000 for the confidential human sources provision of information in support of the investigation. They got to go pay people off to get evidence against Trump. Thanks. FBI special agent. Don't know if that person is still there or not. Hopefully not. Hopefully Kash Patel fired him. Couple were fired, but of course, we'll see what it looks like in totality. So more from the classification. This looks like a printout saying here, cast assistance, document cast assistance. Here are the details. FBI special agent redacted conducted preliminary toll analysis on limited toll records associated with the following U.S. senators: Kelly Graham Hagerty, Holly Sullivan Tuberville, Johnson Loomis Blackburn. All got spied on by Jack, maybe in conjunction with this CHS. And Jack was just going wild, attacking all of the Republican senators. And they, so far, have been pretty quiet about it. We saw recently that Ted Cruz and Eric Schmidt really are pounding the table on this. They sent a letter over to Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. They told him, can you please move these impeachment proceedings forward when it comes to Judge Jeb Boasberg, the one who actually approved all of these things? But what about criminality for FBI agents, DOJ prosecutors, the other people who are breaking their oaths of office in order to target, weaponize their office, their political opponents? So who else got targeted? Toll analysis, Trump, Pence, more than 50 White House issued cell phones, just gobbling up everything in a dragnet. Bannon, Stepien, Jesse Law, Michael Brown, Robert Sinners, Thomas Lane, Jenna Ellis, you know her, Sidney Powell, Bernard Carrick, all of them getting targeted by Jack. Approved by, don't know. Contact, don't know. Drafted by, don't know. And here's more. Special agent also conducted a preliminary analysis on the toll records for Mark Meadows. Blank, 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 and blank. An analysis on the Apple iCloud was also conducted. They just scraped through Trump's chief of staff's email accounts and his Apple iCloud account because these people are maniacs. Then they will lecture us about retribution. They'll lecture us about that. Give me a break and put full headlines all over the Times. So we've got that. Now, Jack, of course, testified in front of Congress, and the memos show that Jack Smith approved it. Patel told Just the News, let's see if there's anything else over here. Yeah, Marsha Blackburn, many of those senators who got spied on are all promising to sue and do things, but been pretty quiet out there. Ellis and Mitchell called on Pam Bondi to investigate these new documents. We agree. We agree with Jenna Ellis on this, and we've been hard on her previously. As a private citizen and election lawyer, I've been dedicated to honest elections. To think that evil Biden cronies were intent upon spying on me and my colleagues, not good. Not good. So that's what is happening on that part of this investigation. Now, meanwhile, Senator Grassley also came out. He said, by the way, Arctic Frost, Jack Smith's original investigation, or the investigation that he inherited, began at the FBI under a code name called Hyperbolic Frost. It's like never ending, these names. With a clear goal from the start, the FBI, which was to get DJT. Grassley clearing that up for us in case you didn't know who he was talking about. That's President Donald J. Trump. Thanks, Chuck. Explaining under Jack Smith's direction, it became a runaway train that targeted the entire Republican political apparatus. My plus Senator Johnson's oversight will continue over from the Judiciary Committee. And they sent this over to Pam Bondi and to Kash Patel. They said, all right, listen, Pam, listen, Kash, we're senators. In July 2022, Bondi and Patel, I began my congressional investigation into Arctic Frost, says Chuck Grassley. Since then, Johnson and I have made whistleblower records public that have exposed how partisan FBI agents and the DOJ prosecutors opened, approved, and advanced the investigation against President Trump and expanded its scope to other Republicans and other individuals. It was a massive operation. Wasn't like one rogue FBI agent or DOJ prosecutor. I would imagine there were hundreds of people on this list. We've also released records showing that anti-Trump former FBI assistant agent in charge, Timothy Thibault, essentially opened and approved his own investigation in violation of FBI policy, which we've covered before. He's not been arrested. He's retired. He's no longer with the FBI, probably doing something else. Now, in response to our documents request, your agencies produced a document that shows that edits were made to an early version of a draft Arctic Frost opening document. This document has several handwritten edits, including the crossing out of the initial name of the investigation. It was called Hyperbolic Frost. Hyperbolic would be a good name for all of their investigations because that's all they kept. They're very hyperbolic. The democracy is over. Trump wrecked American democracy. Remember that? Like, you're being a little dramatic. Okay, they should have called it Dramatic Frost. Or like whiny baby FBI agents are investigating their political opponent, Frost, maybe. It's a little long, but also appropriate. And they renamed it Arctic Frost, which is basically an orange. This newly released document calls into question the accuracy of the testimony of James Comey that was provided to Chuck Grassley back in May. More lies. During a Senate Judiciary Committee oversight hearing. Now, at that hearing, Grassley said, I asked James, hey, James, was the Clinton investigation named Operation Midyear because it needed to be finished before the DNC? If so, why the artificial deadline? If not, why was that the name? Comey said, well, certainly not, Senator, because it had to be finished by a particular date. That's not why we named it that. Operation Midyear, no. There's an art and a science to how we come up with code names for cases. Spoken like an idiot. They assure me it's done randomly. So Arctic Frost is an orange. It's an orange, right? It's a fruit. It's a type of orange. So Arctic Frost was just coincidentally through James Comey's science experiment back there, clanking around some lab tubes, came out with Arctic Frost. It's done randomly. Yeah, right. Sometimes I see ones that make me smile, so I'm not sure. Yeah, right. But I can assure you, James, he says James, that it was called Mid-Year Exam, was the name of the case. I can assure you the name was not selected for any nefarious purpose, no, or because of any timing on the investigation, said the liar. Yet the renaming of the Trump investigation from Hyperbolic Frost to Arctic Frost via handwritten notes is anything but random, James, you liar. So, therefore, we'd like to know how you name these stupid investigations. Please produce all records related to the naming of Operation Midyear Exam, including former Director Comey's emails. Thank you for your prompt review and responses. If you have any questions, contact my staff. Signed, Charles Grassley. Committee on the Judiciary, sincerely your friend. So here's some more footnotes. Let's make sure we're not skipping over these because sometimes there's some juiciness in here, but there's not. Those are just citations. And down here, a link to their oversight and more. Now, they gave us some documents here to prove exactly what this FBI has done. Oh, look at this. Is Arctic Frost, said somebody, March 1, 2022, available instead of Hyperbolic Frost? And let's just Arctic frost. Let's just confirm this and make sure that we can see that it's an orange. Arctic frost, the fruit. Yeah. It's a satsuma. Yeah, it's an orange. All right. That's why they wanted this name. Arctic frost, the fruit. Orange Arctic frost, satsuma. Looks delicious. Looks very filled with vitamin C and all sorts of deliciousness. So they wanted to change it to that. Arctic frost. They said, is Arctic frost available instead of hyperbolic frost? Because their entire lives are hyperbolic. It hit a little too close to home. We're not being dramatic. This isn't dramatic. This is American democracy at stake. So I don't like hyperbolic. Let's call it Arctic. So then someone else says, yeah, oh yeah, it's available. You want it? Sure. Is hyperbolic frost taken? Thank you for your help. Yes, it's available. So maybe these are backwards. Coming down. Good afternoon. Code. Yeah, I think it's backwards. So good afternoon. Would you be able to provide a list of code names which could be used for a new case? Thank you. It's like, how many hours do they spend on the naming of these things? And I remember a good lesson from Seinfeld. He said he didn't want writers thinking about names of the actual show because nobody cared about the names of the show. So they would just call it the whatever, that's whatever. And so there's not a lot of engineering that goes into it. But according to the FBI, it's like they really have nothing else to do other than target their political enemies and create domestic terrorists who they can then prosecute. So this is very important to them. Names are everything. Labels are everything. If you mislabel somebody, you might be in prison under the prior FBI. But anyways, here's the letter. So this one came out 2/23/2022. Title of agent requests the opening of a new investigation called Hyperbolic Frost, which is the Democratic Party's basically nickname, hyperbolic voters. So Washington field office is launching this, approved by someone else redacted, contact redacted. We can't see any of it. Drafted by redacted. I'll probably got promotions under cash. Here, case ID is here. They swap that out. Then there's the emails that go back and forth. They say, all right, here's some other ones. Are these the other names? Obliterating Budge. Okay. Laureate Hyperbole. Frosty Clap. Intrepid Refill. Exploring Sandpaper. Desolated Zinc. Zigzag Interviewer. Rippled Ribbon. Well, I don't know what's going on over there. Is hyperbolic frost taken? Thank you for your help. Yes, it's available. Is Arctic frost available instead of hyperbolic frost? Yes, it's available. You can have it. Call it whatever you want. So they changed the name into a fruit because it more matched, I think, their sickness. But this communication requests the opening of a new full investigative matter predicated on reliable information about knowingly false statements to undermine democracy. Enclosed are the following items. Of course, Arizona, Georgia. There's an A at the end of it, you rude idiot. So they're writing that. Now here, of course, Arizona, all typos. The Electoral College refers to the process. Okay, so here's the full report. Then they changed the name, and James Comey apparently lied about it. Another typo over there for Mike Pence with the S. Extra space in there. Somebody's notifying that. Suggests that too many that's. Don't you know proper grammar? And here, also deleting a charge. That's interesting. Soliciting conspiracy, maybe. So this is him opening the investigation, changes the name because he just likes it better. And Comey lied about it. So that is a prison offense, 100% lying about the naming. So you can see this is the rest of it, all released by Chuck Grassley. And hopefully we see more where that came from. Now, Rand Paul also confirmed. He said the FBI's Arctic Frost probe, it wasn't just a routine inquiry by some independent, nonpartisan, neutral special counsel. It was pushed by an agent with documented bias, Timothy Thibault, who quoted and shared stories from anti-Trump media and then justified the targeting of the president based on those stories. Federal investigations must be based on facts, not politics. This is the very definition of a weaponized FBI, and Americans deserve accountability, courtesy of Rand Paul. So what ultimately has the accountability been? Well, no FBI agents have been prosecuted. We had James Comey, but his case got dismissed and the statute of limitations expired on that. So it's probably out of the gates on that unless the DOJ can win the appeal in a corrupted appellate process filled with a bunch of Democrat appointed judges because the Republicans gave up a bunch of the seats. They said, can we appoint some Court of Appeals judges? Democrats said, yeah, sure, as long as you give us some district court judges. The Court of Appeals judges all entered in their resignations pending, a certain date in the future. As soon as Trump won, they said, actually, we're not resigning anymore. So the Democrats filled all the district court seats and then filled all the Court of Appeals seats too, because Republicans are idiots in Congress. So here, Tom Fitton did a little bit of analysis. How many FBI agents have ultimately been fired? We asked you to put a number on it, remembering that there are 35,000 employees in total. FBI leadership fired no more, according to Tom Fitton, than 138 employees. I know many people probably had zero in their minds, so 138 might be a lot more than that, but what is this as a percentage, I wonder? Since January 20th, 2025, according to official OPM data, of the 3,063 FBI employees who left FBI employment since the president came into office, Trump, most of them retired, 872. Another batch of them quit, 980 of them, because they're like, oh, fascism. The FBI has 35.3 thousand total employees. And so let's just ask Grok, what is that as a percentage? As a percentage of firing. Right here we have it. See what it gives us. See if it understands my question. And see if it gives us, yeah, here you go. As a percentage. Oh, that's not what we want. As of a total, there you go, 39%. There's the number we're looking for. Boom, right there. As a percentage of the FBI's total workforce, 0.39%. That stinks. 138 divided by 35,000 is 0.00391. Yeah, this is why many in the replies express frustration. Yes, Grok, that's true. The vast majority of the exits were voluntary. So all of the cleaning of the house that we've been hearing about, all of the new FBI, it's the same as the old FBI. Nothing's really changed. 0.39%. That's according to Tom Fitton, who pulled the numbers up. And he said this right here, OPM federal workforce, DOJ sub-agency FBI. And I would bet that that same percentage is probably across the board at the DOJ as well as the FBI, because the DOJ is really probably setting the tone. They're the head agency. And we also know that certain prosecutors, like our friend Viva is pointing out, like Jocelyn Ballantyne, are still working there. Janine Pirro in the DC district has said that she is apparently qualified to continue to prosecute the pipe bomb case, even though she was the same woman who tried, according to Enrique Tarrio, to coerce him to flip on President Trump in exchange for an awesome sweetheart plea deal, and targeted General Flynn. So what's going on over there? We've got questions, of course. The numbers speak for themselves. Now, what is Jack Smith doing meanwhile? He's no longer at the DOJ, but Anna Bauer got a notice from them. Jack is starting his own law firm. And they're going to get a bunch of clients because Jack waged the war against the enemies of the Democratic Party. So Jack is launching his own new law firm. It's going to be called Heafy, Smith, Harbach, and Wyndham. And these are former January 6th committee attorneys, Tim Heafy and David Harbach and Thomas Wyndham. Okay, so the Jack Smith special counsel cabal is joining forces with the January 6th cabal of prosecutors, and they're all just starting new law firms. I'm getting rich after what they did to everybody. And they're not worried at all. I bet they're not worried. I mean, maybe they're probably worried a little bit, but probably not that much, because it's the same as it has always been. Same DOJ people, same FBI people. A couple thousand people are gone, but it's basically nothing. So we got that. We got the ABA. Here's the crew who will be over there working with Jack Smith. And the guy that we sent over to the FBI to clean all this up has now left, Dan Bongino. He's going to be starting his podcast back up on February 2nd. We'll see what he has to say. Lots of questions for him, of course. But the FBI has picked his replacement. So we'll see if anything changes with this guy. Christopher Raia is now going in to replace Dan Bongino. He helped lead the response to the truck attack in New Orleans, and he was, looks like, the Bureau of New York field office, probably another career FBI guy, just moving right on up. Raya helped lead the response to the deadly truck attack in New Orleans, former Coast Guard officer, and was a top counterterrorism official in New York. Deputy Director has investigated violent crime, drugs, and gangs. Raya will be co-deputy director alongside AG Andrew Bailey, deputy AG, co-directors. Bongino going back to Rumble starting on February 2nd. So we see more documents continue to emerge. Jack Smith was paying people off now to gobble up evidence. Chuck Grassley says that Comey lied about the naming conventions, amongst many other lies that he told to Congress. But are we going to get any accountability? Comey's case has been dismissed. We've got new lies apparently being identified by Chuck Grassley, but can we do anything about those? Nope, too old. Those are gone too. And the appeal will continue. And of course, we're going to keep our eye on this, but we agree with President Trump that Jack is a disgrace to our country and he should be properly investigated. And if convicted, he does belong in prison. Of course, we'll see if that comes down the pike. We've got another grand jury investigation that is percolating down there in Florida. We can't confirm whether or not that you don't know what the subject matter of any of these grand juries are, but maybe it's a grand conspiracy. We're going to keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet. Let's talk about the fraud in Minnesota. And here is this one. Senators rally together to dunk on Tim Walz, saying you are the center of all of this fraud that we have been talking about here for weeks now. And now these senators sent a letter over to Timmy himself. And it's not just a couple of them. It's basically everybody. You can see Cassidy, Thune, Barrasso, Crapo, Roger Marshall, Banks, Capito, Lindsey Graham's even on the list. Langford is here. Moody. We got Ricketts, Budd, Ernst, Kramer, Loomis, Fisher, Mullen, Schmidt, Blackburn, Rick Scott, Sullivan, Cornyn, Daines, Justice, Young, Curtis, McCormick, Moran, Husted, Mike Lee, Katie Britt, Risch, Rand Paul even signed it. Tim Scott, we got Tom Cotton, Bill Hagerty, Mitch McConnell, Tim Sheehy, Tom Tillis, Mr. FISA himself, John Hoeven, Lisa Murkowski, Cindy Hyde, Ron Johnson, even Lisa signed it. Kennedy, Rounds, Hawley, Wicker, Moreno, Ted Cruz, Boozman, and Chuck Grassley. It's basically all of them, all sending this letter over to Tim Walz saying, we've had enough of you there, bucko. Hey, we write Tim to express serious concern regarding recent reports and federal investigations alleging widespread fraud and misuse of federal funds that are going to your child care and assistance programs. The state, your state, and your apparent negligent management of federal funds raises significant concerns about the adequacy of the state's oversight, verification, and compliance systems for safeguarding taxpayer dollars that are meant to pay for vulnerable kids, working families, not Somalians who are sending the money back to their home country. Unfortunately, these latest reports appear to reflect only the tip of the iceberg. Now, federal prosecutors have been conducting a broader investigation of large-scale fraud in the social services. Some authorities estimate that billions, with a B, in federal funds across various programs, including childcare, nutrition, Medicaid, housing assistance, have all been misappropriated in 2018, which I think is everything. If you have a house, you have childcare, you have nutrition and food, and you have healthcare, that's basically it. All you then need is to siphon off some of that for your $2,500 glasses, you know what I'm saying? And some of those vacations and all your Somalian friends back in Somalia. One example includes the Feeding Our Future scheme, where more than 50 individuals were convicted for diverting hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not funny, it's sick. Hundreds of millions, 50 people, hundreds of millions. No one ever caught it. It's like a joke, honestly. In pandemic relief funds intended for school meals. Oh, they ate something. Under the leadership of Trump, the State Department or Department of Health and Human Services acted promptly to freeze childcare payments to Minnesota. Do you know how hard it is to save $1 million? It's not easy. And these people stole hundreds of them, just like it was nothing, like it ain't nothing. Under the leadership of Trump, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has acted promptly to freeze childcare payments. The Constitution grants Congress the power of the purse, and the U.S. Senate is exercising its duty to ensure proper stewardship of federal taxpayer dollars for the kids, and we take this responsibility very seriously. Thanks for telling us. To that end, we are writing with a detailed request. We want the following information in a couple weeks if you can get around to it. Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. All right, Tim, Minnesota fraudsters, we want these answers. 1, please describe the state's ongoing efforts to comply with federal directives to conduct a comprehensive audit of child care centers that are high risk. What is the state's estimated time frame to achieve full compliance? Answer, they're not. They're just going to sue you to say, stop, you're enforcing the law. 2, please detail any additional verification requirements that Minnesota has adopted to support proof of legitimate use. In your response, I don't think they're even acknowledging that there's massive fraud. They're just saying that their Somalian constituents are under attack by Nick Sorter and white Republicans, I guess. In your response, please specify whether these verification requirements apply to each federal funding stream used to support your child care programs, including this block grant, COVID-19 pandemic relief funds. We haven't even gotten any of the COVID fraud. Haven't even started on the COVID fraud. This is just regular, ordinary fraud. Just, child care, medical care, housing care, normal stuff. What about the COVID fraud? We haven't even seen that. There's some healthcare in there for sure. But that's, like your senior citizen caregiver. Think about it's probably $1 trillion just gone. Please also indicate whether any of the providers get Head Start or Early Head Start and any money for that. How often does the state conduct on-site monitoring, any inspections or investigative visits of these places? Answer, never. How many investigations has the state conducted since 2018? And what evidence of fraud has been uncovered? Yeah. Please detail specific examples of fraudulent billing, if you found any, and billing for kids who didn't exist or for people who weren't there. Tell us about falsifying attendance records, enrolling ineligible children to increase their reimbursement, overbilling for services not provided, using fake business structures to draw down additional public funds. Give us the litany of it, Tim, since you care so much. And also, please describe the prior compliance and enforcement efforts the state has undertaken to address these concerns and shortcomings. Please list all regulatory and oversight actions that you have undertaken in response to federal audits about the systemic misuse of funds, systemic fraud. Please include the dates of implementation of all the reforms. There was also back in May, Homeland did an audit report. They made 3 recommendations: to recover overpayments, strengthen monitoring of attendance records, and implement real-time electronic attendance reportings. Do you think they're going to be honest on their attendance records and that's going to help you discover this? As of the end of 2025, these recommendations remain open. Why have these recommendations not even been adopted? Now, also, please describe any additional reforms Minnesota has evaluated for potential implementation to prevent fraud in the state's federally funded programs, including but not limited to individual registration requirements, fingerprint technologies, and more, so we can validate you've got actual kids there. And give us detailed documentation on all providers who got this federal money. We want records, licenses, inspection, monitoring, complaints, and everything, so that I guess they can start to root some of this stuff out, make more criminal referrals over to Pam Bondi, and hopefully people are getting charged. But this is a lot of senators. There's a lot of heft behind this. It's not a single, House representative. It's like half the Senate. Now, Tim, of course, is very unlikely to comply with most of this. They are already saying that they're being attacked, and Minnesota is now suing, in fact, the Trump DOJ. And so let's see if we can find this lawsuit. The news was just breaking moments ago as we started the show. So let's see if we can actually pull up that lawsuit right here. And lawsuit, looks like we're looking for the PDF, seeing if we can find it here. And going to keep looking for it. But while I'm looking for that, here is what one of these people were saying, courtesy of this clip of Timcast News.
From PBS Frontline.
Yes, sir.
Hey, A.G. Ellison, A.C. Thompson from PBS Frontline.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Is this litigation aimed at restraining the use of crowd control weapons, less lethal weapons? Our whole crew got pepper sprayed today by federal agents. Are you aiming to do anything about that?
Well, one thing I'd like to ask you to do is to make a complaint and make sure people know what happened to you and your crew. Part of what our case is about is First Amendment protection. We believe that the federal government is persecuting the state of Minnesota because of our political views. And that goes, and look, the First Amendment, the press is protected by the First Amendment, and is vitally important in this moment when freedom of the press and every First Amendment right is under a threat by the federal government. So I'm going to ask you to let us know what happened. But
what is he even talking about? First Amendment rights. All right. So here is the lawsuit that was filed. You can see it's an 80-pager. This one just dropped today. They're filing it in the District of Minnesota, and it's state of Minnesota through Minneapolis and all of those people against Kristi Noem and others, Todd Lyons, everybody else in the Trump administration, Border Patrol, Gregory Bavino, and the rest of them. Now, let's see what they say. We're not going to read the full 80 pages of their screeching, but here's the crux of their lawsuit. They say, Metro surge, December 2025 happened, and an unprecedented deployment of DHS agents came in to Minneapolis to root out the criminals. Now, the surge has instilled fear among people living and working and visiting Minneapolis. Why would the regular people living there be fearful? Are they illegal aliens or are they criminals who have a need for removal? Why would other people not be so scared about that unless they are in that category? Thousands of armed and masked agents, and they used to love the masks. I don't even know what they're so concerned about. Conduct raids, militarized raids, dangerous, illegal, and unconstitutional stops, blah, blah, blah. So defendants claim this unprecedented surge is necessary to fight fraud. It's clearly necessary. In reality, this deployment bears no connection to this at all. They say they've deployed 2,000 agents. There's more federal agents there than the sworn police officers there, which is what we're talking about. That's perfect. That's the kind of surge we need. This operation is driven nothing more than Trump and their desire to punish their opponents, which is the stupid refrain we hear from them repeatedly. After weeks of escalation, a woman got shot and killed because she tried to ram an ICE agent. The 10th Amendment gives us sovereignty to protect our own health, so it's a 10th Amendment case. And who are they talking about? The people of Minnesota are entitled, you mean the citizens of Minnesota, are entitled to basic safety and dignity in their communities. They have a right to move about their daily lives and be confident. And let's say lawful residents, citizens and lawful residents. They have a right to go to work, illegal aliens, to take their children to school, illegal aliens, and move through public and private spaces free from fear of violence against them or their loved ones by the federal government. So they're conflating. There is no distinction for them. If you're in Minnesota, whether you're an illegal alien, whether you've committed multiple crimes, whether ICE wants you or not, you're the same. It's a disgusting thing when they do this to us because our citizenship is sacred. It is not the same. And for them to conflate the two and to basically say we all share the same rights and liberties and all of the same benefits, then what the hell is the point of being a citizen? They don't want that to actually be a distinction anymore because citizens are obnoxious. They'd rather import a bunch of people who are very easy to control because they're just happy to be here and they can inflate everything to serve them at the expense of the citizens. They are entitled to access city services and city facilities and all these things. They're not even allowed to be here, you freak. They expect that law enforcement, whether federal, state, or others, will follow the law and they should be free from unlawful seizures. They're not unlawful seizures. They need to be removed. When the federal government violates these rights, unlawful tactics used by Trump are undermining public trust, blah, blah, blah. So we bring this lawsuit. Let's see what their ultimate claims are. We know who the parties are. What are they saying? Trump is targeting Minnesota because of animus. Well, maybe if you guys didn't have $18 billion of fraud and siphoning it off, like 50 people stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. So they're saying Trump's targeting them because everything is political. If Trump does it, nothing is political. If they do it, fast forwarding through all their whining. Let's see what the actual charges are, what the claims are. All of Trump's stuff. Trump calls the Somalis garbage. They're eating cats and dogs, all the things. We got it. So this is now, we're under attack. 20, 30 pages of this. ACLU, we're all under attack. Minneapolis woman got shot after she tried to hit someone. Now we got there. Okay, long list of Trump screaming at the Minnesotans. Impact, also very detrimental. So this is going to go to some judge. We'll see who it gets assigned to in short order. Then the impact on St. Paul. We got it. Come on. Quit your crying. What are the claims here? Commandeering and all the things. We're now at page 44. Just showing you this for posterity's sake. And the claims are right here. Boom. 10th Amendment claim. Right. So the federal government can't enforce immigration law because of states' rights under the 10th Amendment. Well, the federal enforcement of immigration laws are pretty well codified. I think that's a stretch. Let's see what the next claim is. So I guess if they win on that, any state who just says you can't enforce federal immigration law can just kick the federal government out. Have they heard of the Supremacy Clause? Equal sovereignty under the U.S. Constitution. Fundamental question. The states are now being treated. Oh, okay. So it's almost like an equal protection claim. So Minnesota is being treated in a disparate fashion. So we're not treating Texas this way. We're not surging in Texas, but we're just surging in Minnesota. And they're like, we're being discriminated against. Our constitutional structure doesn't allow the president to target independent states, whatever. So then the APA, okay, these are all the last catch-all claims. This lawsuit's dumb. APA claims, they shove that in there when they can't make any other arguments, like you change things without following the proper procedures. Another APA claim, okay, you can't make these decisions without giving us proper notice. And now there's no individualized assessment. And we got the gist of it. Okay. Anything else interesting? No. More APA claims. APA claim. Retaliation. First Amendment. Supreme Court has said First Amendment prohibits government officials from being attacked. Got it. So they come out, they scream at Trump. Now he's targeting them. And this is a retaliatory motive. Because Walz was talking smack during the last election. We got it. So this is draconian and we're being punished here. And this is also viewpoint discrimination. The president is attacking them. Man, this is a soft, almost secession. If they could do it, they would do it. If they could continue to get the federal taxpayer dollars, that is. They want that money to continue going. They just don't want the federal government to enforce the law. So they want a bunch of things. In conclusion, they say, we want you to stop Trump from engaging in unlawful actions. We want you to stop arresting or threatening to arrest anyone who is not subject to an immigration arrest, unless there's probable cause to believe that individual has committed a crime. Threatening or using physical force, brandishing weapons, dispersing individuals engaged in First Amendment activities. They can't do that. They can't point firearms at people who are not posing an imminent threat of death, which is when they're allowed to point firearms. Using hands-on physical force, using chokeholds or carotid artery restraints. Like, oh my gosh. And watch these judges come back and give and check off on some of these. Concealing his or her identity, wear visible identification, turn on their body-worn cameras, which we're in favor of body-worn cameras. They usually vindicate the cops, but award the plaintiff their cost and reasonable attorney's fees and more, all coming from Liz Kramer, Keith Ellison, and the Minneapolis Minnesotans against the Trump DHS and others. So, of course, they're always victims. They're perpetual victims. Now they're even more victims because they got caught stealing billions of dollars. Now it's all just made up. It's all of us just misinterpreting their leering centers for really, really high-level places of education for the youth of America. So they're suing. We've also seen that while they were there, what were they rounding up? Who were they rounding up? Oh, the people who are attacking the children, the eliminators of life. That's who they round up. But of course, they're suing because they want these people in their communities. And for some reason, weird lefty freaks who exist in this location also want them there for whatever reason, because they don't want to be called a bigot or a racist, or they feel bad because they're white or whatever. Trump has arrested hundreds of criminal illegal aliens since kicking off this large immigration enforcement in Minneapolis. Hundreds, including monsters who committed heinous crimes like the murder, like the S, and the R-ing of the kids. But of course, ICE Watch wants to make sure ICE can't remove them. Said ICE announced the latest roundup of what it called the worst criminal offenders in the world. Local officials released these people when ICE said, can you please put a detainer on them so we can come arrest them? They're like, no. These are people who deserve to live in our community, says the mayor. Governor Walz and Mayor Frey are encouraging this behavior. And Their sanctuary policies are ensuring that these people can stay there. The agency, which sent over 2,000 officers last week alone, also hit out at violent rioters and agitators for interfering and obstructing ICE. Here are some of the worst. This guy, Fabian, is a Laotian national, a boy and a girl, and aggravated offenses, the worst possible crimes that you could ever possibly imagine. This guy did them. The ICE Watch goons want him to be there free. This other guy, another criminal alien from Laos, another one against the kids under the age of 13 and transacting that kid. Chu Vu, also from Laos. Man, those Laos people, pretty gross. Convictions of another one, 12-year-old girl. Another one, Gamma. This guy's from Mexico. What are the Mexicans up to? He was up to homicide, battery, assault, amphetamine. Great. Here's this guy, Elmi. Oh, Somali. He got convicted of homicide. Great. Ahmed, another one. Criminal illegal alien from Somalia. 2 counts, negligent manslaughter in a vehicle, DUI, just driving around drunk, murdering people, larceny, and damage to property. This other guy, Gilberto, from a Salvadoran national. Legal immigrant, homicide. 3 times. Mariama, another one, Sierra Leone. Convicted of 2 counts homicide, 4 DUIs, 3 counts larceny and burglary. Here's the last one. Lore, a criminal alien from Laos. Final order of removal, 2 counts homicide. All running around. JD Vance said, this is ridiculous. These people cannot be here. I understand. Americans do these things too. American citizens do. We don't need to have more of it. Hear this stupid statement. Illegal aliens commit crimes at lower rates than American citizens do. So they should be allowed to be here, and all American citizens should be deported. Basically is what they're implying. So, which is all ridiculous. They're illegal by virtue of the fact that they're here. Arresting and deporting these people is critical to national security. Democrats are going to get our law enforcement killed if they don't stop lying about this issue. And the people working to keep us safe, said JD Vance. Great looking crew right there. Walz and Frey, been vocal opponents of the ICE operations. They're even suing them now to stop them from happening. Frey puffed up his chest. He said, "Get the F out of Minneapolis," and was just dropping F-bombs because I think that's kind of how they communicate with their new class of constituents. Walz has called, they understand that, Walz has called immigration enforcement efforts reckless, compared ICE agents to the Gestapo. Now you've got maniacs trying to run them over with their cars. And of course, they're going to continue to cry victim about all of this. Now, here was another one. Pam Bondi posted this afternoon, said, anyone who crosses the red line of assaulting law enforcement will be met with the full force of this Justice Department. Okay. According to a newly unsealed complaint, Luis Nino Mancada, an illegal alien in Portland with ties to Tren de Aragua, maybe he'll get a visit from Van Hollen, the senator, is alleged to have repeatedly rammed a Border Patrol vehicle, threatening the lives of federal law enforcement officers. Look at this. Ramming them. He should never have been in our country to begin with, and we will ensure he never walks free in America again. That's from Pam Bondi. And Todd Blanche also posted this. He said, this TDA gang member who came here illegally under Biden and allegedly attacked federal officers and destroyed federal property, the DOJ now welcomes them to the find out phase. Wow. So what's going to happen next? Is he going to make a TikTok video running around free in the countryside like Kilmar did? No. We'll see what happens. Of course, we honestly wish Pam and Todd success. We want them to succeed, but we will poke fun at them because Kilmar is singing Christian freedom hymns, talking about how he overcame diversity, running around free in America. So we'll see. We'll see how that ultimately works out. But here is James Comer saying these people are the center of fraud, ground zero for fraud. And wait until we get our hands on some new materials. Here's Comer on the Oversight Committee explaining.
Why are we doing it? Because we can't continue to spend $3 trillion a year more than we take in Washington. And that's what the annual deficit is, $3 trillion. Our welfare budgets are growing much larger than the taxpayers can afford. So we've got to look at states where there's massive amounts of fraud in the welfare population, in the welfare programs, and try to eliminate that fraud. The big question that you ask that I get asked every day, is anything going to be done about it? I'm pretty confident that we're going to see success at the end of the day in Minnesota because you've got so many of the cabinets in the Trump administration on the ground. Obviously, Department of Homeland Security is on the ground in Minnesota. Brooke Rollins, as you mentioned earlier, with the Department of Agriculture, she's on the ground because the SNAP programs are administered through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And Brooke Rollins asked Tim Walz months ago for data on his SNAP beneficiaries in Minnesota, and he refused to turn it over like every other Democrat because they know that there's fraud there and they don't want to do anything about it. The recipients of their welfare programs in these blue states are huge Democrat voting blocs, and the Democrat governors and Democrat mayors have no incentive to do anything about it. But we've got the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, on the ground. Every program in the federal government that would be what we would consider some type of welfare program. Minnesota is ground zero for fraud, and this Somali population in Minnesota appears to be professional almost at how they've been able to defraud these programs. And what we're learning is that there are pockets of Somali organization in other states where they've committed this types of fraud. Maybe not on the same level as Minnesota, only because there's not that many living in those states, but we're going to track the money. We're going to follow the money to wherever it leads. If it's a Republican state, it doesn't matter. We're serious about reducing and eliminating fraud and holding people accountable.
All right. So he seems like he's got some hope in his world that there will be some consequences for the people who've stolen billions of dollars from the American taxpayer. There are a lot of people down there on the ground. We saw Scott Bessent was out there. I think Kristi Noem made her way out there. So hopefully we see some action on this. We've got now the senators are even also diving in saying, Timmy, you better give us some answers here. You can decide you're not going to run for office again, but that doesn't mean you're home scot-free there, buddy boy. We're coming for you. Get us those answers, or we'll see what happens next. All right, my friends, we've got one final update on the day, and this is a pretty interesting one. Maduro's lawyer now booted off the case. Very interesting conflict happening here. And the judge handling the former ex-Venezuelan contested president, Alvin K. Hellerstein, just granted a motion to strike this attorney and get him out of here. And it's a very interesting thing that happened with this guy. His name is Bruce Fein, and he's not some random lawyer who is just trying to get on the case. It seems like he's pretty well respected. He's an American lawyer specializing in constitutional and international law. Here's what he looks like. A principal in the Lickfield Group. He's in D.C., and he's been doing this a long time, obviously. Harvard lawyer. And he thought he was Maduro's lawyer. And something interesting happened. He's also over here. This is his actual law firm. Law offices are Bruce Fein. So he said that I'm representing Nicolas Maduro. And there was a back and forth here. You can see in the docket. Motion for Bruce Fein to appear pro hoc vice. And we all were sitting here thinking, wait a minute. Maduro already got another lawyer who entered his appearance on this case previously. So who is this new guy coming in? And the docket shows some other U.S. prosecutors. Let's see if we can find. That's much older. Yeah, the other attorney, we're going to see his response here in just a second. But Bruce Fein came skidding in here, and it's an interesting back and forth. So here is the formal request to remove this judge, Bruce Fein. We've got two attorneys who were on this case. Barry J. Polak was the original attorney who was representing Maduro. After the pro hoc vice request came in from Bruce Fein, we've got Polak. He responded. He said, Judge, I am the real lawyer. I showed up and I appeared for Maduro at his initial appearance and his arraignment. Now, after I showed up for him, this other attorney, Bruce, he then filed a motion to appear on the case. He entered his appearance as counsel. The court granted that motion earlier today. This other lawyer comes skidding in here. Now, as set forth in my declaration, neither me nor anyone acting on our behalf has authorized Mr. Fein, this new lawyer Bruce, to appear for Maduro. Maduro has not retained him nor authorized him to hold himself out as Maduro's counsel. So Mr. Maduro has authorized me to move to strike this other lawyer from coming on the case. I've talked to the prosecutors. They don't care about any of this. So judge, strike this attorney from the case. So this other attorney then comes out called Bruce. He says, wait a minute. I am Bruce Fine. And I respectfully respond to this, submitted by Barry and the accompanying declaration. Now, I submit this filing in the spirit of professional restraint and judicial economy to ensure the record accurately reflects what Maduro wants, his voluntary choice of counsel consistent with the Sixth Amendment. On January 5th, Polak, the real lawyer, filed a notice of appearance as counsel for Maduro. Showed up, was there at the initial appearance and arraignment. Then, on January 6th, I filed a motion to appear pro hoc vice and a notice of appearance purporting to appear for Maduro. You granted my motion on January 8th, so now I'm also representing him. Now, later that day, Maduro's other lawyer, Polak, he filed the instant motion. He said, kick this other lawyer off the case. Supported by a declaration that stated that Maduro doesn't know me, has not communicated with me, and has not authorized him to enter an appearance. So this other attorney's kind of blocking this guy out. Nobody knows who he is. He's just trying to get on the case. Now, this lawyer, Bruce, says, I do not dispute his declaration. I don't question the accuracy or the good faith of his representations to the court. And I make no allegation of misrepresentation, improper motive, professional misconduct by him at all. I fully accept that he has represented to you, Judge, that he believes that Maduro has not authorized me to appear for him. So I know that other lawyer is trying to kick me off. It's not his fault. He doesn't know. Counsel me, I sought admission and I entered an appearance in good faith based upon information that I got from other individuals credibly situated within Maduro's inner circle or family that Maduro wanted me to help in this case. So it's like the family almost hired him, this attorney, from Maduro. Counsel offers this information not as a factual contradiction of Mr. Polak's declaration, but solely to explain the basis for why I submitted an appearance, why I thought that I needed to come in here to protect his right to choice of counsel. Okay, so like some other lawyer is representing Maduro, but he's saying Maduro doesn't even want that guy, more or less. And to ensure that the court, not interested parties, definitively determine who Maduro wants to represent him. Family wants me. Maduro says he wants that guy, or that lawyer says Maduro wants him. So I submitted my motion. Now, counsel does not request the court to adjudicate any dispute about the reliability or the provenance of communications with President Maduro. Instead, I move this second lawyer, this court, to conduct an in-camera inquiry. So go get Maduro, bring him out, and ask Maduro, which lawyer do you want? To definitively ascertain Maduro's representation wishes, because the lawyer says, oh no, Maduro wants me. The other lawyer's like, no, he doesn't. His family says he doesn't. Counsel, me, I've had no telephone, video, or other direct contact with Maduro. Counsel respectfully notes, however, that Maduro was apprehended under extraordinary, startling, and viper-like circumstances. That's for sure. Shout out to the military, including deprivation of liberty, custodial restrictions on communications, immediate immersion in a foreign criminal process, in a foreign tongue, fraught with potential for misunderstanding in communications. He just got whisked away. Nobody knows anything. He doesn't know anything about how this process works. He thinks that, this lawyer is his lawyer, but I'm really the right lawyer. So the Sixth Amendment protects a criminal defendant's qualified right to be represented by the lawyer that he wants. Now, you, Judge, you maintain broad authority to manage attorney appearances and to make sure that his wishes are voluntary. If there is uncertainty about who his actual lawyer is, the prudent course is to have a judicial inquiry. Bring everybody in and ask him. An in-camera inquiry, so like behind closed doors, the judge is looking off the record, is particularly appropriate where public airing of attorney-client or other communications could prejudice the defendant. So you need to ask him and intrude upon confidentiality, distract from the merits of the prosecution and more. So this new attorney, to dispel any confusion about who his rightful lawyer is and to permit this matter to proceed without detours or other distractions, we ask this court Don't strike us. Have an in-camera interview of Maduro. Go get him, bring him back, and ask him, what lawyer do you want? Conduct a brief in-camera inquiry to definitively ascertain his wishes. Does he want Mr. Pollack? Does he want me? Does he want both? Or does he want other attorneys? Like, we need to know. He doesn't even speak in English. So enter an order also consistent with Maduro's wishes. So you ask him, Judge, and he'll tell you. If the court concludes that my withdrawal would faithfully reflect his wishes, I'll do so with alacrity and move on, consistent with applicable professional obligations governing the termination of representation. And so I am the real attorney. I'm Bruce Fine. So I need you to ask Maduro, does he want me to represent him? Yes or no? Signed by Bruce Fine. And Bruce at Fine Points. And he's like not a joke lawyer. Like, this is a real attorney, married to somebody else, top DOJ official under Reagan, served as associate deputy AG from 81 to 82, criticizes everybody, Bush, Clinton, Obama, Trump. He's got a full Wikipedia page. Handled a bunch of big cases. So he's not some like goofball attorney who's like, I'm representing Maduro. He's a real deal. So pretty strange how that's happening. Is Maduro getting representation that somebody else wants, or is it really what Maduro wants? The judge didn't care at all. He came back down and he said, listen, Bruce, you want to come in on this case and represent Maduro, but you admit that you were not retained by Maduro nor by Maduro's retained counsel, Pollack, and you weren't appointed by the court. Now, you base your application upon information received from unnamed persons, he says in an unsworn response, that are credibly within the inner circle or family, writes the judge. Yeah, that's not good enough for me. So your application to join the defense team has no legal basis. Unnamed persons cannot appoint counsel. Only a defendant can do that. Only Maduro can do that. There is no reason to bring Maduro into court in order to ask him in camera if he would like to add you to his team. If Maduro wants to retain you, he has the ability to do so. You cannot appoint yourself to Maduro's case. So the other attorney, the real lawyer, his request to strike you from this case is granted, and your motion to come in here is denied. And my order granting him that status to be pro hoc vice so you can come in and play is vacated, signed by Judge Alvin K. Hellerstein. And what's interesting about this, it's like, does Maduro know? Does he even know that he has the choice of counsel? Did he hire this guy? Is this attorney saying, I'm your guy, here's how this works? Who knows? Strange things that are happening. But the other attorney, off the case. Maduro is going to be sticking with Pollack, and we'll see what happens next in this case. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we keep our eye on Maduro. All right, my friends, it's been just a beautiful stream. Thank you for joining us. We covered some good ground today. Here is what we covered. Quick recap, then we'll see what you have to say about all this. Trump says Jack Smith belongs in prison. He's right. And we learn now today that Cash released some other documents showing that Jack Smith paid 20 G's over to a confidential human source who apparently gave him a bunch of information that presumably looks like it led to the spying on Republicans, senators, and more all across the board. Grassley also released documents in which he is saying that James Comey lied about how names got attached to investigations, in this case, Arctic Frost, was a label that was specifically adjusted right here. Hyperbolic Frost felt a little bit too aggressive. They don't want to be called hyperbolic. Arctic Frost feels a little bit more appropriate, and they targeted the president accordingly. So they went, found people, paid them for probably fake information. Then they went and handed off the investigation of an anti-Trump maniac FBI agent. They just handed it right off to Jack Smith. Jack Smith approving it all and taking it and running with it. So we talked about that. Lots of Jack Smith stuff today. Meanwhile, Jack Smith is starting a law firm with some January 6 lawyers, and then they're going to make millions of dollars courtesy of the Democrat Party, no doubt about it. And Dan Bongino coming back February 2nd, but we've got a new person who is filling the slot over there called Christopher Raia as deputy director, and we'll see how that turns out. We also looked at these numbers courtesy of Judicial Watch to see just how many FBI agents were ultimately let go. Turns out According to Grok, it's like 0.39% of the entire workforce was fired. 138 out of 35,000 people total. That's it. New FBI, mostly the same as the old FBI. All right, so all that, of course, and hopefully the reforms are still underway there. Then we turned our attention to Tim Walz. We had almost 30, 40 senators sending a letter over to Timmy saying, you're in big trouble there, bucko. We're not letting up on this so quietly. You're not going to just disappear into the moonlight because you're not running for office again. And Comer, very excited about the prosecutions that are hopefully coming soon. We saw Minnesota is now suing the DOJ for a bunch of stupid claims, First Amendment claims, 10th Amendment claims, APA claims. Give me a break. We'll see how it goes. Of course, most of the time, the law doesn't matter. It's only about the judge who gets assigned. And the question is, how much do they hate America, the Constitution, and President Trump? Then we learned more about this fun little back and forth in the Maduro case. One defense attorney says, get out of here. I'm the defense attorney. Another defense attorney says, no, I'm the defense attorney. And the judge said, you're fired. You're staying on. And we read through the motions, the back and forth on that. And Maduro's got a lawyer. Don't know if it's the lawyer he wants, but he's got a lawyer now. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And happy Monday. I hope your weekend was absolutely outstanding and you have returned bursting full of energy, because we're going to have a great week together, no doubt about it. But let's see who's here. Let's see what you say about all of this and more. It's a beautiful day. We got Donut Mind Me in the house. We got Muffin Rando clipping for us on the day. It's a beautiful afternoon. And wow, we got hard-boiled eggs and beans. We got some interesting images here today. What do we have cooking over here? Oh, it's an interesting one. Lots of interesting clips here today. And here's some more. All right, we're queuing it up. Boom. From Donut, we got Jack Smith right there. There's Goofy Jack. Yeah, there's you, Jack. We're coming for you there, bucko. No one's above the law. Hey, what's up? Sissel Says in the house. Thank you, Sissel Says, for rating our stream. Shout out to all our friends over there on Rumble, watching on Sissel Says. Sounds like a great channel. You have to go see what Cecil says. Hey, Schlista, in regards to Senator Kelly, I knew it. I called it. He can't fight. So also, we didn't cover this today, but Kelly is suing Hegseth today. He launched a lawsuit today. They're all just going hard in the paint with their lawsuits. I knew, called it. He can't fight the demotion because the way you fight having a punishment giving is you say you don't accept it, you take it to court martial instead. And if he does that, he would have to put him back on active duty, possibly hold him under confinement. Plus, you can't be on active duty and be a sitting senator. So he would have to resign his Senate seat. If I was Pete Hegseth, I'd add a couple more downgrades in rank to really upset Senator Kelly. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to cover too. And I saw that drop this afternoon. It's kind of in the queue. Maybe we would talk about it. But we may hit it this week. We'll see what the DOJ says and what Hegseth's response is. But yep, Kelly soon. Because he's upset. Hey, what's up? Jakov Smith. That's a Russian name. It's a Russian name. Smith. Yeah, Smith. Thank you for that one old guy. Hey, Not a Fed is here. Walz's reality versus what America wants. I'm really hoping they recreate this Braveheart scene. This scene. Minnesota National Guard and ICE. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that scene. Where they thought that they were going to fight and the Irishman is like, it's my island. I told you it's my island. Remember how he talked like that? He was fun. Something Not Right in the Head. Great film. Great movie. One of my favorite. Hey, one old guy. $20,000 payday from Team Russian Name for Jack. Thank you, one old guy. Well, he didn't get that. He didn't get paid. Jack didn't, but he paid somebody else for the info. Rick D, what's going on? Minnesota and Minneapolis officials are holding a press conference where they announce a lawsuit to stop federal officials from enforcing immigration law in their state. Rick D, ahead of the class. Yeah, I saw that right as we were sitting down. It was all over the cables. Jacob Frey and Keith Ellison talking about how victimized they are. And it's like a nonstop, just perpetual victim. Isn't the $20K payment Giglio material stuff that should be disclosed to the defense? Was it disclosed as being used in order to capture that evidence? I mean, not that I ever saw. Yeah, not that I ever saw. So like 20,000, in other words, it could show No, I mean, not that I ever saw. I mean, the defense might have had it and we never knew about it, but I doubt it. I mean, it was all connected to the spying on the senators, right? I mean, so just to go back to the document. So that $20,000 payment was also in the same batch of documents, right? There's the 20 G's, also in the same batch of payments that is talking about the senators. And so I think we are all just learning about all of this, like right now. I don't think Trump's defense even probably knew anything about this, unless it was actually being used in their prosecution. Like, the investigation is a huge, sprawling dragnet. The prosecution is just a little sliver of all of the evidence. Like we saw this in the Proud Boys case. Proud Boys tried to get evidence of HSI evidence into the case. They said, no, it's not relevant. It's not being used against you. You can't even, it's not relevant to the process. It's not even necessary. The judge kept it all out. So I would guess that no, it wasn't disclosed as, Jenks or Giglio or Brady. These are all, cases that are basically saying the government has disclosure obligations. You have to let the defense know about it, because if the defense knows, oh, wait, your evidence was predicated. Where did I just go? Your evidence was predicated. There it is, Jeffrey Adams. On somebody you paid to snitch. Now we want to cross-examine them on that. Oh, you got $20,000? What do your finances look like? Did you have any urgent pending foreclosures that you needed to go make something up for? It biases the actual evidence. So I'm not sure that any of this was actually used against Trump, whether it was a part of the case or not. I think Jack was just fishing for people. And now we're finding out about it. Sick. Great question, Jeffrey Adams. Thanks for taking us back there. One old guy. Do all these anti-ICE foos know that the vast majority of agents on these task forces are senior agents over 5 to 20 years in service? That means they served Bush W, Obama, Trump, Biden, and Trump in all those years. Then they only became the Gestapo once President Trump came in. That's basically how it is for everything, one old guy. You've identified a pattern that exists where they can do whatever they want, but if you do it to them, suddenly it's retribution. Yeah, hey, Jesser Bob, I am late, but happy to join alive. Good to see you, Jesser Bob. Don't worry, I won't ask you to restart. Well, we have to now, since you just got here. Hello. Okay. Hey, instead, I will listen at 1.5 speed to catch up. And good to see you, Jesser Bob. Glad you're here. Happy Monday. You're going to have an amazing week. We all are. Spuds shared this one. Yeah, Newsom does kind of look, is that Beavis or Butthead? It's one of them. I didn't really watch that show because of how they talked. Made me want to gouge my eardrums out. So once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah. That one looks real good too. Yeah, he kind of has that face, doesn't he? Jeffrey Adams, what's going on? Rob, there may be a space second word DIC reason cases are named the way they are. A space dick reason. I don't even know what that is, what kind of reason that is. But that sounds very FBI. So you're probably right about that, Jeffrey Adams. Thank you for that. What's going on? Mizzy in the house, Mizzy M. I would be happy to see just one conviction that ended in jail time. Well, we're going to stay positive today. It's going to happen, Mizzy M. We're all going to be happy one day. Thank you, Mizzy M, for the dono. Thanks for being over there. It's been a little while. It's coming up on a year now. We're going to have a year anniversary. And so, hopefully we're seeing something soon. Mizzy M, thank you for that. Rick D, so much for a jury of your peers in Macomb County. Want to bet this is a blue state? Macomb. Oh, I think I saw this. Was this a report? I think a news release that they found some city or some state or some locale. I can't really read what that one is. Oh, here it is. Macomb County clerk alarmed about citizenship affecting jury trials and elections. Yeah, this is right. Macomb County Register of Deeds. Where is this from? What district is this? Can we zoom in on this puppy? What state is this? I can't see it. All right, anyway, so they say 239 non-citizens. So in other words, they hand out jury forms, jury selection requests. You're going to come sit on the jury. They use the driver's license database to hand those out. The driver's license database hands out licenses to illegal aliens. So now they're sitting on a jury of convicting and sending citizens to jail. Maybe. Hey, Gauntlet KI podcast. Most everything you show is well narrated from Gauntlet KI. I was asking about our podcast this morning, and I said, yeah, we do publish an audio only version, but our show is very visual. You see the documents on the screen and stuff. But that is a good point. I mean, we are reading the document. So, but I wonder if on the audio, if you can tell sometimes when I'm going off script, because I'll insert some things in there that aren't actually in the text, So if you see it, you're like, oh, Rob. Gauntlet KI. Oh, it's garbanzo beans. Pee Wee Herman. Yeah. Wasn't there a lot of interesting things about him? George Garbanzo, about this Seattle mayor. She was introduced on her inauguration by a group of Somalis. She came from Minnesota. I live here in the deep blue state of Washington. The house next door is an adult care owned by Somalis, and it's empty, says George Garbanzo beans with Pee Wee Herman. Don't know if you want to eat those beans, but garbanzo beans. George Garbanzo in the house. Yeah. And I think that was the same woman we played the clip of her here. And she said, she was asked, are you investigating any of your daycares? She says, no. Why would I? They're paying me millions. One old guy says, no balls, Walz. You are so bad. Signed, Republican senators. Who else is tired of these stupid letters? I know. It would be nice, because Congress can do a lot. They can like do what the Democrats did. Investigate whomever they want, gobble up all the evidence, pass it off to the DOJ. The DOJ runs with it when they're Democrats. We're kind of like hoping that catches with our side. Congress has sent a bunch of letters and criminal referrals now, but they can't prosecute anyone. So the letters are pretty lame, but honestly, we're starting to say it's not the letters anymore. It's kind of the person catching the letters. Who's in the mail room over there? Anybody ask that question? Who's catching those letters that are going to Pam? Is she even reading them? No balls, Walz. Good to see you. Hey, Hoofer's here. Yes, still on jury duty from Hoofer. Here's my breakfast before I go to jury duty. Hope everyone has a good day. That's an interesting way to get off the panel. You have your other jurors vote you off the island. Beans and hard-boiled eggs sitting in a jury panel amongst friends. Hey, Wild Things Forever. Good to see you. Hey, Rob, quick question. Can't Congress just change the law or the statute of limitations like the Democrats did for the cat lady? Yeah, they can. The difference with the Democrats and the cat lady, so you can't, yes, Congress could change the statute of limitations for crimes. If you extended it and then charged somebody after the extension, like in the Comey case, I think Comey would make the claim that statute change was, like an ex post facto law that would be unconstitutional, that is trying to criminalize him for conduct that didn't exist or that had already expired because of the old statute. So like he would still have a defense, but yeah, Congress could change US code and modify those SOLs. Now, what happened with cat lady is it's different than criminal law. I don't think Congress will do that just for one case, but what happened in New York with crazy cat lady was a civil claim. So it's a little bit different. Because she didn't charge him, couldn't charge him with a crime. She just sued him civilly. Even for the R and the diddling, like the Bergdorf dressing room was a civil case. So they actually didn't, change criminal laws. They created a private right of action, basically. So if you're an independent person, you can sue somebody else. They just opened up the statute of limitations. There was like a 1-year look back period. It was totally corrupt. Her team was behind it. Her lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, was working with Kathy Hochul to get the whole thing done. So that it's a little bit different of a concept because it's civil versus criminal. But yeah, Congress could extend all the SOLs with the stroke of a pen if they wanted to do it. But I don't think they'll do it because it benefits them. All that has to happen is that these defendants just have to run the clock out and they're off scot-free. Unless you want to create this massive conspiracy case, which is much harder to prove and kind of ensnare everybody. You can't charge them individually because it's gone. It's already over. So I think Congress has a strong incentive to not change it. One old guy, hey, Congress, instead of writing letters like that, why don't you impeach those judges? Well, I think that's a good point. And Senator Cruz sent a letter over to Mike Johnson saying, hey, Mike, can you do something over there, please? Boasberg spied on all of us. It's offensive. We need you to impeach him. Please do it. It starts in your house. You have an obligation and a duty. By not doing it, you're neglecting your duty of oversight over the judiciary. So do it. Joseph Riley, what's up? Checks and balances, alien invaders go away. Checks and balances, alien invaders go away. We've got UK flag, cross, Israel flag, and a flying dove of peace from Joseph Riley. Thank you, Joseph. Checks and balances. That's right. We want checks and balances. We don't want our system to just be perverted by fraudsters. We want checks on the fraud. One old guy. Everyone watch police activity post Baltimore. Cops open fire as driver tries to flee on YouTube. Man, that sounds like a intense video. One old guy. Police activity post Baltimore. Check it out. Hey, Chubby says, that dude at the pressers was just spouting out talking points randomly. The Mayor Jacob Fry, that guy that we just saw, like right before the show started, I was listening to it. I'm like, this is so dumb. All right, just bloviate, victims. You have to deal with your fraud. We're not paying for it. Not a Fed says this is the recreation of the FBI's scientific, artsy, yet random case name generator system. Turns out it's the same system as the Family Guy joke generator highlighted by South Park. Oh, it's right here. Is that a GIF? Looks like an image. Oh, it's a manatee who just places a ball in a hole. And then that's how the names come out. Sounds about right. Yeah, I've seen the videos like where you throw darts at the thing behind you. Like how does the media come up with a story? There's actually a pretty funny video. He's throwing inappropriate objects at this whiteboard. He's like, how does the mainstream media come up with a news story? And there's like a list of words on behind him, and he throws this cylindrical object, and it hits it, and he says, and he throws like three of them, and it's like, climate change for transgender Ethiopians. It's like, oh, perfect. That's my article. And then he writes for Politico. And that's the whole article. That's how they pick it. Hey, not a Fed. Oh, there's the full system. Yeah, manatees dropping balls in holes. Sounds like the New York Times. Chubby, what's going on? All these leftist cities and states like to pretend the supremacy clause just doesn't exist, I guess. Should be surprised they do the same with the Second Amendment and pretty much the rest of the Constitution. Yeah, no, they just pick and choose things that help them at any given time. Could you imagine yelling at Tim Walz or Jacob Frey about any other constitutional issue like COVID or like states' rights during COVID or any of these things, individual rights, or although a lot of the state rules were coming down from the governors, but they just pick and choose. Chubby, your point with the Second Amendment is well taken. One old guy's opinion says, those Laotians sure are lousy, but nailed it. One old guy, 10 out of 10. Hey, Chubby says, leftist law enforcement stopped keeping records of whether an offender was illegal or not. Hence why now the statistics seemingly show they commit less crimes. Well, that's true. And many of them are white now. Have you seen that? You see these people from South or in Central America who are very brown and very, very Mexican or whatever. And they call them Caucasian in their arrest records. Another Caucasian male. DUI again. Another one. Oh, no. Chubby, good to see you. Hey, plot twist. The other lawyer is actually a hitman. Check for a fake mustache. I'll bet it's Hillary. Yeah. That's hilarious. Those are funny ones. And Hillary, she's going to be the janitor. No, I'm just here outside Epstein's cell. Just cleaning up all the trash in the prison. Right outside Epstein. Hey, one old guy. The lawyer Bruce Fine is like William Shatner's lawyer character called Denny Crane from Boston Legal. Denny Crane is a renowned attorney of some 50 years of practice who claims to have won 6,043 cases and will never lose one. That's from Bruce Fine. Well, maybe he has. I don't know. Maybe he's right. What if he's the real lawyer? What if this other lawyer is just like, no, I'm your lawyer. It's not really his lawyer. Maduro, no. I don't know, man. Seems like it could be risky. Hey, King of Bill, thank you for the dono, one old guy. King of Biltong says, Biltong is one of the highest protein snacks in the world, in case you didn't know. boasting nearly 50% protein, B vitamins everywhere, creatine, iron, zinc. Go to BiltonUSA.com, use code Robert, and you'll save 10% off and be loaded with protein. Thank you for that, our friend King of Biltong. We got Rob in the house. Rob, thank you for the dono. Thanks for being a membo. And for the dono, no comment, but very nice of you. Rob 103 100. Sounds like a radio station. We appreciate that, Rob. Thanks for being here. Hey, Macomb County is Michigan, is the county just north of Wayne County in Detroit. They voted plus 14 Republican in the last presidential election. So it's pretty red, but they've got a bunch of, they have maybe illegal aliens who were on the jury rolls. Curious. Thank you for that heads up. That came over from Donut Mind Me. Hey, this one from Rick D. Sent this one jumping out of an airplane. Rob, I thought about this a lot. First DC interview I would love to hear is you and Janine Pirro. To hear you two discuss law would be beyond epic, LOL. I would love to do that. But I got a lot of hard questions. I have to ask, I just have to ask about them. So I would love to do that. Judge Janine, if you're listening or watching, we're probably moving to DC soon. Come join us for an interview. We'd love to do it. Rick D, it's a good suggestion. Anybody know Judge Janine? Hey, Londo, what's going on? Walz is 100% balls free. Plenty of tampons, though, in the men's bathroom, though. Maybe that's why he wanted them in there. I didn't even want to think about it. Hiker Dude says, Judge be like, would the real Maduro lawyer please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. How'd that song go? Venezuela created a monster because nobody wants to be Marshall no more. All right, I'll stop. Rob says, Looney Tunes, there is Acme portable instant hole on Pam Bondi's desk. It is like one of those, that you can pick the hole up. It's like this kind of mouse pad. You pick it up, you drop it somewhere else, and then it just kind of creates a new portal somewhere all over Pam Bondi's office, and everything is just getting siphoned. It's like Portal, just getting siphoned into somewhere else. What happened to the Epstein files is happening to everything. So, Rob, thank you for that. Awesome to have you here. My friends, thank you so much for sending those in. Super fun and really appreciate your support. Jonah Finn. Hey, great question. Jonah Finn said, Membo for 10 months. This morning on the members only stream, we had a DC update. Someone said, what's the T on DC? And I said, we submitted an application on a new place out there. We really like it a lot. We'd love to get it. So hopefully we do. We'll see. I've got an email to respond to this afternoon about it. So we'll see what happens. But Jonah Finn, does the DC crib have a backyard for future kids? It does, Jonah Finn. And it even has some, extra space in there in case that happens. Jonah Finn, thanks for asking about it. Yeah, it's actually a front yard. It's actually a beautiful front yard. And the backyard kind of butts up against an alley. It's a cool spot, really cool spot. I think it would be great for what we do here. Very close proximity to the people we want to talk to the cases we want to cover. It's got a beautiful living room, which I think will look sweet for interviews and for our live streams. Super excited about it. So we are, making moves. We've got an application out there. So hopefully it goes through. We're renting out there because, we don't want to be there forever. Just kind of get in and get the hell out. But yeah, it should be pretty cool. Thanks for asking about it. So front yard for the kids. All the little Robbie Juniors running around. All right. So my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for sending those in and for being here and joining us as we cover all this news and more. We're off to a wild start this year, and I think it's only going to pick up from here. So we will be back tomorrow to get into it again. Little scheduling note. So tomorrow morning, I got invited on to Sean Atwood's podcast. He's a friend of ours over in the UK. We did his show like years ago when we were first getting started talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we'll be live over there. If you're a member, we'll open up live chats on Locals and on Substack. So if you want to join us, we'll also link, but it should be live. I think we're talking Ghislaine Maxwell, the new petition for a writ of habeas corpus, the grand jury transcripts that were unsealed. The DOJ just submitted another filing on that as well, that they need a bunch of time to review all of her exhibits. So we'll break all that down tomorrow. It's going to be on the Sean Atwood channel at 9 a.m. and then 9 a.m. my time. So that's probably 11 Eastern time if you want to join us. And that's just at Sean Atwood's channel. Over on the YouTubes, we'll open up the live chats for membos. And then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow, in the afternoon to get into it again, and it should be a good one. So my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Before we wrap it up, big thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths. Thank yous out to Donut Mind Me. We got Muffin Rando in the house. Thank you to John. We got K Bean, Carrie B, of course, Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, modding the fort down for us over on the Rumbles. We've got Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, all modding the fort down for us, my friends. Very grateful for you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all the love. And Londo said a front yard in DC is useless. All right, I guess we'll cancel this place. Says, if you must rent in DC, Capitol Hill, a literal community, is the safest and most patrolled. Well, that's where we're looking. Capitol Hill. Right near there, right in Capitol Hill, right near the Supreme Court, right near the DC District Court, all sorts of stuff. So I think it'll be fun if it goes through. So thanks for sending any good energy our way. We hope it goes through. And of course, we'll have updates here when we're back. But Londo, thanks for squeezing that one in, my friends. Thank you for being here. I forgot to say hello to any of our friends on X. Then we'll call it a day. Let's see. We got anything cooking over here? Oh, we got some locals comments too. Let me check those. Hey, OTR Smokehouse. What's up? Hello, everyone. OTR Smokehouse says, Ohio, please be next for investigations and such. Called out the red states. The wine is the worst. We are number 2 with Somalis and daycares right next door in Ohio. Yeah, April Maid. I wonder if any of that money found its way into Act Blue. Probably. Yeah, I mean, they're like a clearinghouse for all of the Democrats smurfing. So I would imagine that, yeah, it's definitely going over there. And locals comments. Let's make sure we got some locals comments. My apologies. Almost skid out of here a little bit too soon. We do a couple comments. Londo says, new acronym from Chris Plant this morning. It's new to me anyway. What we have today is an overabundance of SMIDs, SMIDs, which are severely mentally impaired Democrats. But boom. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it when you're basically suicidal. You want your society to die. Like, and you'd rather fight for illegal aliens than your 3 kids. Like, what is that other than something wrong? Sergeant Bob, older watchers will remember the classic Wendy's adverts with Clara Peller. Where's the beef? So Pam, where's the beef? I.e. prosecutions. Laura, says Pam is busy doing the deep state bidding. Laura, I don't know, man. People are like, we're hitting the apex, the end date on the time frame here. Like, we're running out of time. Spuds, is it my imagination, but did that document to the Senate say Mike Kelly instead of Mark Kelly? I'm not sure which document you're referring to. I don't know about a document to the Senate. So Mark Kelly of Arizona is suing Pete Hegseth. The senators sent a letter to Tim Walz, and not sure if there was a Senator Kelly on here or what Kelly that was. Let's just take a quick look. I don't think I saw any Kellys. Senator Kelly, which one is that? Kennedy, Hawley, Boozman, Grassley. Nope, I don't think I see any Kellys on here. So I'm not sure which one you're referencing there, Spuds. What's going on? From Tony D. Hey, looking forward to your interview with Sean Atwood. He could probably put you in touch with Ryan Dawson. He's an encyclopedia on the Epstein subject and many others. Could be interesting. He's been censored for decades. He published the client list years ago. He even sells it on a t-shirt. Ryan Dawson, man, that shout out to that guy. Yeah, being censored is horrific. Yeah, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. We're going to talk about some of the latest legal stuff, and it should be fun. Thanks for joining us over there, Tony. We'll post the links tomorrow morning. Sergeant Bob says, history is a great teacher if only the student listens. My point, the Minnesota pleading sounds a lot like what the Confederacy claimed. I know. It's like history almost repeating itself. You had the Fugitive Slave Act. You had different locales say, we're not going to comply with federal law. States ultimately, the Lincoln one, they said, he's going to enforce these laws, and there was a secession. They're not going to be as bold this time around. They're just going to try, like they've already seceded in many ways. They have a better deal than ultimately leaving the Union. They get all the money they want and all of the political power because the rest of the country pays for their scam. So how do you unravel that, right? How do you unwind that except without very, very strong efforts? Very, very strong. We'll have to find out. All right. So my friends, let's pause there. on the day. It has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for being here. So tomorrow morning, we'll be over with Sean Atwood. We'll talk some Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein stuff and see what else is cracking over there. And then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll get into it again. It's going to be a beautiful stream, no doubt about it. So thanks once again for being here. Thanks for liking the video on your way out. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done that, and for sharing the show with everybody you've ever met in your entire life. Little ask there. Thank you. And I hope you join us when we come back tomorrow, because it's going to be a great stream. We'll start it off in the morning with our friend Sean. Then we'll come back in the afternoon and we'll get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide, fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. So drop a like and don't forget to share, and bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news.